This happened to me a few years ago while traveling. I was private tutoring, and my boss sent me to his office to pick up my paycheck at the end of the first month. He gave me the address, so I and my boyfriend at the time drove there, and he waited outside for me. It was a tall building, and I approached what looked like a security guard. I showed him the address I had written down to make sure it was the right place. He studied it, nodded, and told me it was on the 5th floor, and he showed me in the direction of the elevator. As I got in the elevator, he stepped in with me. He pressed number 5. I assumed it was his job to escort people to the right floors. He was staring at me up and down the entire time. I glanced down at the address my boss had written down and realized it said 2nd floor, not 5th. I turned to the security guard and I started to say, I think we are a little confused. As this says 2nd, he made out he didn't understand me. So I started to say repeat the number 2 in Vietnamese instead. He completely ignored me, and instead turned and gave me this creepy smile. It still sends shivers down my spine when I think about it. He reached out and started to stroke my hair, saying, "So beautiful." I froze to the spot and started to shout no at him over and over. By this point, the doors to the elevator had opened. I stepped out and looked around, and there was absolutely nothing there. It was under construction. There was paint and dirty old sheets everywhere all over the floor. I ran towards the window and looked outside to see if I could get my boyfriend's attention, but I was too high up. The creepy guy had gotten out too and was pointing me down an empty corridor. He looked frustrated now. He was blocking the elevator by the point so I couldn't get back in. I pretended to walk towards the corridor and he followed me. When I got to the door, I bolted back to the elevator and started to press the button to the ground floor, and he followed me. Whenever the doors closed, he would just press the button from the other side and they'd open again. He was shouting at me in Vietnamese and by this point looked angry with me. Adrenaline had kicked in and I was thinking about anything I could use or how I could defend myself if he tried anything with me. I started screaming as loud as I possibly could to make him back off. As I pressed the ground floor button and the doors began to close again, he smiled at me once more. This awful, creepy smile that I think about all the time. My heart was in my mouth as I imagined what would be waiting for me when the doors inevitably opened again. To my surprise, the elevator started moving towards the ground floor this time and I managed to get out. I ran out as fast as possible and was crying by the time I got to my boyfriend. He wanted to go back inside, but I stopped him and made him drive home fast. The same day I called my boss and explained what had happened. It turns out I wasn't even in the right building, never mind the right floor. I blame myself for getting the wrong address, but different country, etc. I don't know why the guy in there pretended I was, or what his intentions were with me, or even why he decided to just let me go. Maybe he was trying to scare me, or maybe he just was trying his luck with me. I have no idea, but I think about it from time to time or tell the story again to someone, and it creeps me out to think of what could have been. I've never gotten in an elevator with a man again either.